In 1979, or rather the 1979-1980 season of the NBA, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson both started their rookie year. But there was one more change that happened that year that would transform the game of basketball. And that was the introduction of the three-point line. Until that point in time, basketball was all about you put a ball in the hoop, you get 2 points. And suddenly, in the 79-80 season, everything changed. Because now, if you were a certain distance away from the hoop, you could shoot, score, and get 3 points instead of 2. The rules changed. And if you watch basketball today, you watch a game that has fundamentally been transformed by that three-point line. Now, because players, a ton of them, can stand behind that three-point line and shoot, you see most teams not even moving into the paint. They're all sitting on the outside. They take a shot, and then they turn around, they run back to play defense, whether the ball goes in or not. Offensive rebounding is at an all-time low. I mean, the whole game has changed because of that introduction of the three-point line. And this year, we're seeing another change, but not in basketball, not in the NBA, not related to points, but rather related to whether or not you're going to get traffic at your website. We're seeing the shift that Google is making in terms of what it cares about. And what it cares about will drive a score, and that score, especially when it relates to performance, is going to impact whether or not they send you traffic. And I'm guessing that your site is driven by the traffic that comes from Google. So understanding that green circle and the number inside of it, the PageSpeed score, is critical. And what I want to do is highlight 4 steps to getting those 90 plus PageSpeed scores. If you want to be in the green zone, if you want to essentially tell Google, I care about customers, and therefore I want to make sure that my site performs well, then you're going to want the green circle. You're going to want the 90 plus PageSpeed scores. And to do that, I'm going to give you 4 tips. The first tip is embrace. And we're talking here about WordPress websites, WordPress sites, WooCommerce sites, all that good stuff. It's the stuff that you know that I write about and that I talk about. If we're talking about WordPress websites, the first thing I'm going to tell you, step number 1 is start embracing Gutenberg. Now, notice what I didn't say. I didn't say start liking Gutenberg. I didn't say start loving Gutenberg. I didn't even say start advocating for Gutenberg around the rest of the world. I simply said make the move. Start embracing Gutenberg. Why? Because the underlying page structure that we used to have with, say, regular themes, and then that structure when we moved to page builders, and then our structure when we moved to Gutenberg changed. If you look at the structure, and by structure, I mean HTML. If you look at the actual code in HTML, what you discover is with themes, it was a decent amount of HTML, and the rest was PHP thrown in. And then the PHP would generate HTML that would show up in your browser. And all of that was, let's say, a small amount, right? But then we went to page builders. And one of the things about a page builder is that you can make adjustments at every different place, right? They gave customers that ability to change the way a menu is laid out, to change the color, change the CSS, change the spacing, everything. But to do that, they often generate a very large object model, a document object model, or a DOM that has, here's a div with a class, and then there's another div that holds the next div that holds the next div, and finally you have the menu item. And so a six indented object model of structure for a single menu item becomes pretty large. And you have a website that has multiple, menu items, and you have, banners, and then you have headings, and you have all the content that goes into your page. And all of a sudden you discover this object model is massive. And here's the thing, to you and I, using the page builder, we don't see any of that. It doesn't matter. Like, we're sitting here dragging and dropping things from Elementor, Beaver Builder, any of these guys, and you don't realize that what you're doing is actually creating a very, very large DOM. And Google doesn't like it. Not only does Google not like it, it will penalize you for it. And so that is a challenge. So step 1 is move or embrace Gutenberg, because again, the DOM object model, the document object model, or DOM, shrinks down again, and you don't have the problems that you had before. So going from page builders to Gutenberg is going to take work. I get it, but I'm telling you, first step in what you want to do to get those page speed scores up. The second is redesign your pages. The truth is that you have a bunch of stuff. Simply because we can doesn't mean we should. And you have a bunch of stuff on every page that maybe you look at it a second time and you go, maybe I don't need this there. So take a look at each page, and as you redesign it, because you're moving from a page builder or from an older theme to Gutenberg, ask yourself, do I really need this here? Right? It's a little like the Marie Kondo, does this spark joy? Right? You look at each element and you got to figure out, is this going to help me convert or do whatever I want this page to do? And if not, just because I can put it there doesn't mean I should. And the more you clean stuff off, the better your page weight's going to be, which will help you as you get to running those page speed scores. All right? So that's the second thing to do. The third thing to do. The third thing is I want you to think about every plugin that you have listed on the site as this question mark. Do I need it? Does it deliver value? Is the weight of that plugin costing me more than the benefit? I interacted with a guy who had recently uploaded a new plugin to his site because he went to a meetup, and when they came back, they told him, this is the thing that'll drive all your revenue. And so he was like, oh, I got to have it. So he installed it. He configured it. It was popping up these pop-ups in different places. It was supposed to make him more money. And it did. Or rather, it did create some conversions. So yay to that. But he noticed that he also had a dropping of conversions, meaning while this little pop-up, he could attribute 3 more deals that month to the pop-up, he couldn't figure out why, and presumed it was seasonality, right? For why overall he'd lost 10% of his traction or 10% of his conversions. And so he's like, what's going on? Well, when we looked at it, what we discovered was the pop-up plugin, while it may have added 2 more deals or 3 more deals a month to the deal, also slowed the site down considerably. And because it slowed it down, people left. So you don't necessarily want to just grab every plugin that someone tells you it will drive conversion, only to discover that you're slowing your website down and killing conversion. So you need to do some experimentation. You need to look at every single one of the plugins you're using and figure out, is this making my site slower or faster? Because if it's making it slower, you have a new calculation you have to figure out. How much slower and how much does that affect the regular conversions of whatever you're doing compared to the lift that you're getting from using that plugin? And then the fourth thing is a bunch of technical stuff, right? The fourth thing, you get into image compression and lazy loading, and you get to minification of HTML, minification of CSS, minification of JavaScript. You get into compression, image formats like WebP. You're going to get into using a CDN and even potentially figuring out what CSS needs to load up front and what CSS and therefore maybe inline, and what CSS gets pushed out to the bottom. You're going to look at prefetching DNS so that your browser is actually going out and resolving some DNS stuff even before you click on links. And of course, caching. And all of those technical things, you're going, wait, what? Well, you don't have to worry about it. There are plugins like WP Rocket, and of course, the one I'm using right now, NitroPack, who will take care of all that for you. As long as you have a good host and a solution like this, you're in, because they'll take care of everything for you. What I like on the WP Rocket, you go configure those things. What I like about NitroPack is you just activate it and say, yes, be aggressive, or let's make it more moderate, and then they do all the configuration for you. So it's why I think NitroPack is really powerful. But in the end, those are the 4 steps. You do those 4 steps, and I promise you, you will get your scores up to where you want them to be, the green circles and the 90+ page speed scores.